What's going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. It's now almost episode 100 of the Forgotten Race Review. Today, boom! Half-Baked Gaming requests a race that I definitely thought we'd talk about before the almost 2-year anniversary of BDG. Today, I'll try to limit myself to the race and not the overall lore of what is my favorite, almost, definitely like top 5 race in Pathfinder, the Orc. If you're liking what you're seeing, like, subscribe, ding the bell, stay caught up on all your Pathfinder 1st and 2nd edition coverage. If you have a request for a race you'd like to see us cover or homebrew, it goes down there. And remember that patronage at any tier, in addition to getting you a bunch of other sweet stuff, gets your request to the top of the line. Today, this episode of the Forgotten Race Review was brought to you in part by Michael Baker. You know, that dude who wanted me to do the flying spaghetti monster. Of all the things, yeah. Thanks for your help, man. I actually got a lot of positive feedback on that video. I'm not gonna lie. There have been a lot of people who have stolen that, so yeah, well done. A+, Michael Baker. Keep them coming. Give me all that weird stuff. Give me Uncle Sam for the 4th of July. Can I do that one? That'd be sweet. Anyway, I'm rambling. Orcs! Alright, so I don't know about you guys, but I am 28 years old. Or caught somewhere between no longer young but not quite old. Prime of life, I guess they might say. But I definitely, when I think of an orc, the first thing that will always come to mind is Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, which for many other men and women around my age, I'm sure served as our gateway drug into the wide world of fantasy stuff. And that's where the orcs come from. Of course, the overall concept of the orc is drawn from a variety of pre-existing mythology. The notion of the brutish, aggressive, repulsive, and usually malevolent species comes straight from Lord of the Rings. However, there are some Old English glossaries that record the word orc corresponding with the Latin orcus, or deity of the underworld. This also seems to be a synonym with the ogre, or, you know, crack open Beowulf and find the Orkneas, one of the tribes of creatures named alongside elves and ettins that had been condemned by God. In modern day fantasy, these guys run the gamut. Everything from Tolkien's gross, tumor-covered monstrosities that we love to kick in the face, or, you know, also a variation of the Uruk-hai. And I guess we can kind of lump the Uruk-hai in here. What with their beautiful hair. Seriously, find the hairstylist that did that man's hair. That stayed for his entire run through the forest because, well done. Who said orcs had to just crush their enemies? Also, they make wonderful barbers. Clearly, in Warhammer, we spell it with a K. Just running around loving that wag and painting themselves purple to become invisible because no one's ever seen a purple orc. We could go on and on and on forever, even through Dungeons and Dragons, but in Pathfinder, we kind of get the best of both worlds. Pathfinder's orcs are natives of the Darklands, just like the Drow, the Svirfneblin, the Dwarves. Actually, fun fact, it was the Dwarves that first drove the orcs up to the surface. They lived higher up in the Darklands, the Dwarves lived deeper. The Dwarves wanted to move up, they fought some orcs fought some Dwarves. The Dwarves were pushed up, eventually overran the land for quite a while, but more on that later, as in like Friday later. Seriously, I could go on forever. By and large, though of course there are exceptions, the orcs see the world in the starkest of terms. You own what you can keep, you are what you can prove through force. They have no patience for abstract concepts. For orcs, strength that cannot be demonstrated immediately and viscerally is not strength. You know, smile when you eat the gach. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the Klingons in the orc video. Empathy, curiosity, love, and caution are vulnerabilities that the orcs strive to excise from their personalities to help them survive in their brutal world and show them that they are the masters, not the meat. And brutal their world is. In the hold of Belkzen, though of course the orcs can and do live in other parts of Golarion, tribal war is the name of the game. With the exception of what is more or less the springtime, where they come together to forge alliances and make babies. But really, that's right. Let's look at the stats, shall we? And I realize I didn't do one for the Archon-blooded Aasimar last week. Y'all have heard me say so much about the plain touched or wolf touched or whatever touched as parent race but live a little longer. Orcs mature very rapidly in Pathfinder's lore, coming of age at 12 years. Males range in height anywhere from 5'3" to 7'1". Yeah, they're big boys. Weighing anywhere from 174 to 328 pounds, with the women coming in 4'11" to 6'9", 134 to 288. The maximum age for your orc is 40 plus 1d20 years. Yeah, they don't live long, but do prosper. There, boom. 2 Star Trek jokes for the price of 1. Subscribe now! Though as far as the lore goes, that's probably for the best, because if these guys didn't go to middle age at 20 years and start getting strength negs on like the non-adventure-y orcs, they'd probably have taken over the world by now. Oh, speaking of strength, let's talk about that character sheet. The orc gets a +4 to its strength score, but suffers a -2 to all 3 of its mental stats: intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Yeah. Orcs, in fact, do even lift. They are humanoids with the orc subtype. They're medium creatures with a base speed of 30 feet. They've got dark vision out to 60 feet, but light sensitivity, which means they are dazzled in areas of bright sunlight or within the radius of a daylight spell. This can of course be traded out if you don't feel like playing an archer with the Day Runner alternate racial trait, but that's always kind of rough for me to do, because orcs are always proficient with great axes and falchions, and much like all the other races, they treat any weapon with their racial name, in this case, yeah, orc, as a martial weapon. Like the orc hornbow, 2d6 plus strength with a range increment of 80 feet, a la the crossbow. Yeah, I'll take it. Seems good. On top of that, orcs have what I feel is one of the most powerful racial traits in the game, ferocity. Now, Kane and I have gone back and forth on why this is or is not powerful. I'll defend that here in a sec, but for now, you be the judge. Orcs can remain conscious and continue fighting even if their hit point total falls below 0. They're still staggered anytime they're at 0 HP or lower, and they lose 1 hit point each round as normal. But basically, that gives you, with even 12 con, that gives you 12 extra hit points, save for the fact that a staggered character only gets a single move or standard action each round, but not both, and they can't take full round actions. This looks even better on an orc fighter with the orc fighter's FCB. Add +2 to the fighter's con score for the purposes of determining when they die from negative hit points. Yeah, you got real excited there for a second, didn't you? +2 to con for 1 skill point? Yes, I'm here for it. But even then, by level 20, that's what? A pool of 40 more hit points that you're still vital striking in? Not bad at all. This also almost always means you'll be able to walk it off after a battle if you're playing a divine caster who can stabilize themselves. Literally with that cantrip, just stop dying. You've lost the dying condition, you're still staggered, and boom, pseudo-immortality, or at least the ability to go somewhere and beg for a Cure Light Wounds wand. I have played an orc, I have GM'd for an orc, I have a lot I can say about this race cause I love them in Pathfinder. You guys all know by now that I'm a big fan of the dexterity-based builds. I do still believe that dexterity will get you farther than strength 9 times out of 10. When I played my orc hunter, Necros of the Fang, who I kind of miss, actually, I'm not gonna lie, he was fun. I knew I wanted to be a finesse-based character, given that it was on a 15-point buy, and I didn't have the ability to jack my strength score up, but also defend myself. A dumped strength score makes you pretty vulnerable to shadows. A dumped strength score means you get encumbered easily. A +4 to strength means dumping your strength to 9 gives you a strength of 13, which means you can use a 2-handed finessing weapon, say an Elven Curved Blade, like yours truly did. Still hold it 2-handed for the bigger buff on power attack, because now you qualify for power attack, but with an agile weapon, you're still swinging in. It's beautiful. When I GM'd for an orc, and you guys have met him if you've watched Final Fantasy Heralds of Dawn, I have a pretty bad habit of bringing back favorite characters of yore. Josh's orc fighter, Flapjack, was real good at swinging his Lucerne hammer, real good at smashing skulls, but also just wanted to cook. Just a big happy guy making everybody food, haha. That was a really bad Flapjack. I'm so sorry, Josh. And both Necros and Flapjack were very different than how we perceive orcs by and large. I don't know a whole lot about science-y things. I'm charisma-based, not intelligence-based, and I'm happy to admit that to you. But I do think that nurture plays a bigger role than nature when determining at least in the case of an intelligent creature, such as an orc, how they perceive and react to the world. If an orc grows up in a brutal and savage wasteland where all you know is fight for dominance and kill for dominance, okay, yeah, it's probably you. But say if you run that oh-so-classic raised by animals rag and your warcat companion's considerably older than you and found you as a child, and through a connection you probably never really understood because, well, now I'm playing Skoros, because we switched parties is why that sparked off the spontaneous druid casting that a hunter has. And then when you're found by a druid circle and raised with them and live out the rest of your days with them after being essentially a feral child, right, you probably still get mad easily. You probably still have that urge to fight, but it is tempered by reason, by logic, or pancakes. Hi, Flapjack. Need some Flapjack art, we really do. It's not often that you get to see an orc half-dragon. Yeah, it was that kind of game. Fun! If I were to play an orc again, rebuild my orc hunter who prestiges into Mammoth Rider with that huge warcat. But I'm not a big fan of playing something with no intelligence that also has no culture and just wants to run around breaking all the things. GMing for the orc? To be honest, I was really hoping in Carrion Crown I would GM for an orc, given how much Western Ustalav has had to deal with the hold of Belkzen in its past. Playing an orc in Ustalav is playing on hard mode. Unfortunately, I didn't get so lucky. Orcs are one of those races that everybody knows is, generally speaking, here to burn everything down, and I have to imagine in most places on Golarion, that's how you're received. That's certainly how Necros was received, even though I spent my hero point to deliver someone's baby. Got them druid probs, what can I say? But on balance, I think GMing for that character would be a lot more fun, if for no reason, then eventually you're gonna run out of things to smash, and that gets kind of boring after a while. That character certainly has something to prove in polite society, or even like society at large, especially if they want to play a class like, say, a paladin, a wizard, a class that has like an order you would have to join that, you know, tends away from brutal and savage races. And that's the whole arc right there. It's like Worf in the early days of the Next Generation, except like have better hair than season 1. That's enough of me rambling about one of my favorite races. What do y'all think about the orc? Have we played one? Are they just really good for fighting? In the comments, let me know all about it. Next week, it's a Wamic? Vamic? This. What's that? I'll tell you in a week.